Okay, and so if everything is going right, we are still broadcasting here on the dial at 100.5 FM and also on the internet at www.coopradio.org and always on Coast Salish territory, the unceded Coast Salish territories. And on the line joining us is Councilor Sean Orr. Hello, Sean.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for taking this time out and for joining us today. Sean, first of all, congratulations. It's the first time that we're talking on air, but it's a time I get to say congratulations to you for a successful campaign and becoming a Vancouver City Council person.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, it was a really fun campaign, and we got great energy, and it was a great turnout and beautiful day to vote back in April, and I was really sort of proud of the community for coming together. It was quite an honor.
Sean,
and I was totally surprised. I didn't think I was going to make it, let alone come in first. So it was quite superior.
Yeah, no, superior. Congratulations on that. And so, Sean, remind us how long ago was that?
Yeah, you are kind of, but I can kind of keep you a little bit at the end. But I was back in April.
Right. And so, how's it been going so far for you? What's the adjustment been like?
How's it been going so far? Yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's a little difficult to get sort of to get through in terms of renter protections and taxing the rich and things around that sort of nature. It's basically anything that's going to cost the city or it's going to sort of be extra work for staff. This council doesn't really want anything to do with. We started blue sky motions, which is blue sky just means sort of like broad thinking, maybe outside our jurisdiction, but more like advocacy pieces. And one big one that went through that seems to have a lot of legs is that LED headlights motion that passed unanimously and went to FCM. So that's going to be coming up in June in Edmonton, that's the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, where pretty much every municipality across Canada gathers at a big conference and discusses issues and networks and things like that. And so I'll be presenting my motion on the floor there. And then it also went to Transport Canada, and Transport Canada actually issued out a survey. So you can find that online at Transport Canada. It's a survey on if you think car headlights are too bright, if they're distracting, if they blind you even temporarily, and it talks about a lot of the issues around that, which is a lot of it, the vehicle height, the tone of the light in terms of if it's warm or cold, the dazzle effect of these new LED headlights. And and then a Bloc Québécois MP actually started a petition. So there's also a parliamentary petition. So from one little sort of, we were just kind of thinking of ideas that we could get through, because nothing was getting through. It's now kind of has a life of its own, and there's people in the United States reaching out. There's a senator in Washington who's taking it up. So it's quite fascinating to see that kind of go.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that also, thinking, wow. I mean, it was a very nice, brilliant strategy to get something through, like you said, and it's fantastic that it has such a response. I mean, people are on board with it. Can I ask you sort of when you were thinking ideas through and how you wanted to move, in certain directions, like you did with this one, with health and safety, what were some of the strong points around this one? And you must have had other ideas that you were thinking around, strategizing around the same time. What landed you on this particular one?
We have a ton of different ideas, improving voter turnout, improving transparency, tons of different ideas, that we just don't think will kind of pass in this council. And we had done one earlier that was a campaign, kind of a provincial campaign from a bunch of different municipalities, called Housing is a Human Right, and that was led by BC Poverty Reduction Coalition, and that passed unanimously. So we were thinking, okay, well, we got to get these kind of advocacy motions, advocate to like senior levels of government, and that's something that we can kind of get through. And it just kind of popped up. We were just kind of brainstorming things, like me and the team, and so, somebody said, "Oh man, these headlights, bugging me." I was like, "Oh, me too." And then it just kind of like we're like, "Oh yeah." We started doing a bit of research, and there's a whole Reddit community called R Fuck Your Headlights. There's a guy in the States that has a website, Mark Baker. So that we realized, this is like a pretty big thing, and we started talking around people like, "Oh yeah, I hate those lights," and it's one of those things once you start thinking about it, you start seeing it more too. When you're driving, you're like, "Oh yeah, there they are." It just kind of went organically like that.
Very cool. Very cool. Give us an idea of some of the other things that are on the burner for you right now. I want to talk about the defamation suit, but I want to talk about that a bit later, though, if you don't mind. Can we talk?
Yeah,
thank you.
That's obviously a pretty hot topic for sure. We want to kind of focus on the job too. I don't want to sort of be bogged down by that. I just want to get things rolling here. So we actually kind of related to it is that we have a motion. That's another campaign that other cities are doing, sent to me by a councilor in Courtney, that's called Elect Respect. So it's a campaign called Elect Respect, and you can sign on as like individuals, you can sign on as a political party, and you can sign on as a city or a municipality, and that's what we're hoping to do, that Vancouver signs on as a municipality. And it's just essentially sort of keeping it clean this coming election, not using personal attacks, and just talking about policy, policy disagreements, and not sort of going at each other, and that goes for me, that goes for my party too. It's going to be interesting to see if I think that will pass. And then we have another one that we just submitted today. That is another sort of tax the rich motion. It's really fascinating. It uses kind of I wouldn't say like a loophole, but it's a way for municipalities to get things done, because obviously we're very limited in our, we're creatures of the province, essentially, and so basically it's a way, it's called MIVA is what we call it, but it's Municipalities Enabling and Validating Act, is the law. So it's a way just for us to get around sort of being able to tax, because taxation is run through the province. So this is a way for us to get around that, and that's I believe that's how the empty homes tax works. So this would be basically a tax rebate. So similar to the recent Zero Means Zero budget that passed in the fall, in terms of that, everyday people that are struggling to make ends meet and pay bills, and rising cost of groceries and things like that. If their home is valued under $3 million, they get a tax rebate back. If your home is valued over $3 million, or property, or other properties, it's a 7% tax on top of that. So it's a really unique way of sort of making people who are able to pay taxes, or should be able to pay taxes, making them pay for the things that we need, our services, our community centers, and things like that. Because as we're seeing, a lot of things are kind of coming out in the wash after this budget. We're seeing lifeguards being cut this summer. That's no good. We're seeing people, I had a couple emails. Community gardens, their compost is being charged. They're being charged $300. People's parking is going up across the city. Community center fees are going up across the city. Bylaw tickets are going up. Your basically your Evo and your Moto is going to go up because of parking. So it's coming out in all these different ways that we're seeing. and we're seeing also, a reduction in grants as well. So we're seeing a lot of festivals, struggling. They were already struggling, but with a reduction in grants, we're seeing things like Car Free Day sort of go by the wayside. The fireworks, even Pride, was struggling. So there's a lot of ways that this kind of really affects the city, and this would be a way. So this would be a way that, okay, yeah, if you are struggling, then you buy your house for a modest amount, say $700,000 back in the 90s, and now it's worth $2.5 million. You're not kind of penalized by that. But if you're investing in these big properties, then you're going to pay more. So that's kind of the logic behind that.
No, that's great. That makes sense. I mean, we'll be tracking that, and so for folks who are new, maybe, and where would you point them for information specifically around COPE, the party that you're with, but then also around your activities, and where can they get more information?
Yeah, I mean, COPE. So I do video updates on my Instagram as well. Sean or official, just sort of laying out the week or what was successful, or what we're hearing. There's a lot of issues that kind of come flying at us, and it's I just kind of lay things out. Like, for example, the Hastings skate park is closed for FIFA, things like that, and just kind of laying out all the issues and kind of going through the week. Other council members are bringing, motions forward. There's a motion by Councilor Rebecca Bly coming forward April 1st to reverse the pause on supportive housing, which happened about a year ago. Ken Sim and ABC paused supportive housing, which, we feel was wrong-headed and kind of, unnecessarily kind of punishing people who need it the most, in order to sort of make a point that other cities in the region have to do more. So that's coming forward April 1st. So I just do these little video updates on there on Instagram, and then I do like a more fulsome kind of write-up called the OR Report, and that's available on vocope.ca under the news section, where I just kind of do a longer essay.
Okay, great. So I wanted to ask you, like, now as an insider, you get to see how the power structures operate between city and police. I was always very shocked to hear, this long-standing policy of the police not giving any details in their budgets, yet their budgets keep increasing. And again, we saw recently as well, right? I think there was a clawback and they got a little bit more money.
It was another 10%, and it's almost up to $500 million. But I will say this, that the entire budget this year had almost no detail. And that's new as well. So the past years, budgets, draft budgets were hundreds of pages long, and this year it was, I think, 11 pages. We're supposed to get a line by line kind of detailed budget where we can find out where these cuts are going to come from. If we're going to do 0% property tax increase, we want to know where that's coming from. Is it arts and culture? Is it homelessness services? Is it engineering, traffic, road safety? Is it staff at City Hall? We didn't know. We were just guessing. We were just kind of throwing stuff out there. And yeah, similar with the police budget. There's that opacity around it. It's all done through the police board, which is a beast of the province as well. Through the Police Act, and the province, especially around the Black Lives Matter movement, the province kind of promised to reform the Police Act, since really backed down from that promise. And so, yeah, unfortunately, like you said, I've seen the power dynamics, but still don't really understand it. And people come to me and go, well, now you're on the inside. I'm like, I really don't have any kind of more insight into how things work there. On that file.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I was just getting back to, so that is a triangulation between the province and the municipality. Is it?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so many things in the city. Like I started off the top. Taxation even is a creature of the province. Everything, the whole city is a creature of the province. Vancouver is unique in that we have our own charter, but still they can kind of come in and amend the charter and make us powerless as a city. It's never happened, but I mean, there was kind of that question was kind of coming up when we just recently passed our official development plan, and that's under, I think, Bill 44 or 47 from the province, where all municipalities across BC have to come up with an official development plan. And there was people, that were saying, well, this is this massive plan, and this is going to destroy Vancouver, and the province is forcing us to do this. And there's some truth there that the province is forcing us to do it. But it's also, we do have power to amend it later. It's not set in stone, and it's not like this mass rezoning. So yeah, I'm learning very much, that is kind of a common theme, where we very much are creatures of the province, and there isn't a ton we can do. We can advocate to the province, or we can advocate to the federal government. But a lot of what we do is zoning decisions, staffing decisions, budget stuff. Kind of everyday stuff. Yeah.
Sure, but not. I mean, okay. Then when you say like stuff you do is like staffing, and you gave this list, and you also said budget. So then, I mean, there's no like budgets are already decided and allotted for, and you get voted. You don't know the information, and it was a 7-4 vote this last time, which was great. Meaning that, okay, I mean, there was opposition to it and people wanted more transparency. But I guess the larger question, Sean, would be like to me, maybe you have different understanding, but this is probably replicated with other cities across Canada as well. And so I wonder around transparency around how the publics can have more transparency around these kinds of things.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think each province is different. I mean, I know in Ontario they do have the strong mayor thing. We don't have that here, thank goodness. I think transparency is going to be a big election issue coming up. I think, and I've tried to be as transparent about my job as possible about what I do. About what goes on at City Hall. So I think that'll be an election issue. And I think integrity is going to be an election issue. And that's sort of where that, where the whole issue between me and the mayor kind of comes up. So
yeah. And before we talk about that, I also wanted to ask you around what's happening in terms of FIFA and what's disturbing you around what's happening. I mean, one of the things is that I've noticed surveillance cameras. People were talking about these going up, and then I remember during Olympics they were also talking about surveillance, and I wonder if they ever came down. But what else is bothering you around FIFA?
Yeah, I mean, I think just how kind of top down FIFA is. It's a very secretive organization. They very much are determining what happens. There's a small team at Vancouver, the FIFA team, and they're just kind of doing what kind of FIFA tells them to, in a sense. And we're not throwing in a ton of money. The city, we're throwing in only like $5 million in cash, and then the rest of it's coming from a hotel tax. So we don't have like a lot of sway, whereas in Toronto, they're throwing in, Toronto, the city is doing most of the funding, right? So it's like a bit of a different kind of situation there. But yeah, FIFA's just you think the Olympics were very kind of closed off organization. Well, FIFA is a lot more closed off, and we don't have a lot of insight into what's going on there. And it's only a few months away. So we try to do a few things, like create a working group. Me and Councilor Bly had a motion that was to have basically all the stakeholders together in one working group. Because right now, what we're hearing from even business owners or BIAs and other stakeholders, is that FIFA is just talking to them one-on-one in these silos, and not sort of in this sort of situation where everyone can express their concerns at once. So we wanted to get on top of that, and we wanted to sort of get on top of the fact that there's going to be ton of visitors in our city. They might not know that we have a poison drug supply. Signage or wayfinding around that. There's going to be potentially an increase in gendered violence, sex work, human trafficking, things like that. We just wanted to get on top of it, and street sweeps too, as well. Right? So that was defeated. They said the staff are already doing the work, and we will be releasing our human rights action plan soon. But it's great to have a human rights framework, but there doesn't seem to be like a lot of teeth to it. Like, so what happens if you break this, or it's good to have a guiding, like a high level guiding document that says we want this to happen, but there isn't really anything in it that says what if it doesn't happen. So that's kind of my biggest concern is the secrecy and just not knowing and feeling very powerless myself. But like, there's other things that have come out. Like, I mean, as I kind of mentioned with the closing of the skate park, and that's not great. And that BIAs feel like they haven't been consulted. That's not great. There's concerns around beautification. What does that mean? Is that a code word for gentrification? Are they going to sweep people off the streets? The staff have promised no, they're not going to increase any bylaw enforcement or anything like that. But there's some certain things that they have to do, like they have to crack down on buskers. They have to crack down on guerrilla advertising and things like that. So it's but going back to that, there doesn't seem to be any kind of legacy project from FIFA. So with the Olympics, we got like a SkyTrain out of it. We got Hillcrest, Richmond Oval. We got all these like big, lasting sort of like infrastructure projects out of it, and there's nothing really coming out of it for FIFA. Like, we're not getting like, I think maybe Killarney Field is getting like lights, because it's going to be a practice facility, right? But other than that, there isn't like a big lasting legacy that FIFA's going to leave, other than like it's going to, businesses are going to do well, that show the games, but there isn't anything, you know what I mean? Like, there isn't any sort of like physical kind of lasting project from it, and that's kind of also unfortunate.
And so who's footing the bill for the police to be around when FIFA's around? Is it FIFA footing the bill for that?
Mostly the province.
Okay.
So anything directly FIFA related will be the province. But then, anything like off-site, so anything like basically commercial drive, like where people usually go, like soccer fans go, drive up and down, anything arising out of just regular sort of city stuff, then the VPD, we're gonna have to pick it up. So, and that's the city. So, yeah, that's a really good question too.
Sean, before we get to the defamation situation, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about anything that you want to share with our co-op listeners around your work, or what you're doing, what you're finding interesting, what's challenging. I mean, whatever else you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is I come from like an activist background, right? So it's interesting seeing the limitations of the power there, especially as an opposition councillor, and what the city can do, and sort of keeping a finger on the pulse of what activists are doing in the streets, and that they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, that we can kind of support each other, that we can leave the door open for these street movements. There's a lot of limitations for electoral politics. There's a lot of good things that we can do. I'm doing a lot of cool stuff, but it's still there's a gap there, and there's kind of this worry that if we put too much effort into electoral politics, that we're kind of taking our foot off the gas in terms of pressure from the street level, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, we've seen that with Mamdani. That's not necessarily true. Bernie Sanders, activism and enrollment in unions went up. Protests went up because once you get activated, you kind of stay activated, and electoral politics, some electoral politics can kind of suck the life out of you, I'm sure. But I think with municipal politics, it's enough that you're, you can advocate for like the day-to-day stuff that's important, but then also kind of keep your foot on the gas and keep the province, keep your your focus on the province, because that's really where the power lies. So that's been I think the most interesting thing, whereas this kind of like interplay between those two realities. If that makes sense.
No, it does totally. Sean, let's. I mean, so you're in the middle of this because Mayor Sim made an allegation, and that was in around Christmas time, and I guess. But I wanted to also ask you for whatever you can say and cannot, because obviously at this point you might want to consider what you are saying, because you're going to be litigating this, right? So, I'm not trying to get you in trouble in the future, but maybe you can give us a context around your dynamics with the majority and with Mayor Sim through the time that you spent leading up to this allegation. Maybe, I don't know, is that helpful? Can you share whatever you want to share around that?
Like just the dynamics at City Council. I mean,
well, I guess what I'm asking is how do we get to a point where the mayor does this? I mean, what kind of dynamics were under play there? There must have been things that led up to this in terms of how the person operates. We're talking about Mayor Ken Sim. This probably didn't just come out of the blue. I don't think this was a mistake. This is all me talking. These are my opinions, because when you get to being like this and you're in the media and so on, there's a certain amount of calculation that one does when you're in the public sphere. So, I don't buy that. I heard on the radio him saying, well, it was a mistake and he stepped in shit and everybody does and so on. I don't know. I think I heard him say that, but I just don't buy it. So I guess what I wanted to ask you was just, can you back up and give us some context around what's going down there in terms of how somebody would like be able to say something like this?
Yeah, well, I think that's part of what made it so hurtful and so kind of surprising, was that the dynamic between us and between the parties is generally okay. We disagree on a lot of things, but we're cordial with each other. We're not, there's a few times where tensions run high in chambers, and absolutely, but it was really surprising. It really kind of came out of left field. Even though he'd done it a few times before, he'd kind of attacked me. And, my party is pretty, vocal. And we ran a campaign basically called Evict Ken Sim. And, we came in first. So, I mean, I think it more just stems from the wider politics, because when we're in the chambers, we're actually quite nice to each other. It's not vindictive. It's not as toxic as it kind of may look from the outside.
Okay.
We're quite friendly. Like Sarah Kirby-Young has been really good in terms of answering my questions around procedure and how things actually work, like at City Council, like the actual day-to-day kind of bare bones stuff. And I sit next to Peter Meisner and we chat all the time. So that I think was part of what really shocked me. And when he phoned me to apologize, I said that to him. I said, "Well, how could you do this? We've talked. I've told you about certain things, and why forget the politics." I said to him, man to man, why would you say this about someone, like just to hurt someone, just to kind of crush them, and why would you say it in particular just to one very focused audience, which was also very concerning. So I don't think there's any precedent in council chambers to account for it. Okay. I think it's just sort of from the by-election win, stemming from polling. He was answering a question around polling. It wasn't like an issue. It wasn't like we weren't safe supply. We weren't talking about supportive housing. We weren't talking about harm reduction or anything like that. He was answering a question on polling.
And you're talking about sorry, Sean, just to clarify. So you're talking about when he made the comment to the Chinese media, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so he was talking about polling, and then he went into this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think that kind of sets up the context, to answer your question. Generally, it's a political attack. and that's the basis for the lawsuit. That it was a political attack on my character, and that it was a lie. And it was done with malice. There was an intent there. And that's kind of the basis, right? So it's not like you said, wasn't this mistake? So
yes,
yeah, that's generally what we're taking from it, right? So.
Okay, well, thank you again for sharing that. Sean, now there's also a fundraising campaign for the costs for this. So do you already do you have a lawyer already on this thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do. So
okay.
Defamation lawsuits are very expensive. So yeah, we're raising money. It's at suecansim.ca. Yeah, we're gonna I think the mayor probably has, pretty deep pockets. I don't. I was a dishwasher, a year ago. So I don't have the funds, personally. So, and then there's some election sort of stuff. Like my party can't do it either. So we got to keep that separate. So that's why I went with the GoFundMe kind of route. So. Being absolutely sort of gobsmacked by the outpouring of support from the community, and that's obviously it hit a nerve that people want to see something better from our mayor. They want to see a mayor that lies about their colleagues. They want to see a mayor that pull together. Super grateful for that support.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that what you're doing is awesome. And it's actually really, really brave of you not to accept the apology, to have integrity, and to, basically say no in a good and legal way. And it's something that, as you can see, with the outpouring of support, it's something that the city is totally behind you, because I think that we've seen enough of this mayor and the way that he operates. So I wish you good luck for that.
Thank you.
And
thanks so much.
thank you for taking this time out of your busy day and for joining us. And we look forward to catching up with you as we go. We'd love to invite you on again.
For sure. Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. Thank you very much, and best wishes. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And we're still broadcasting on the unceded Coast Salish territories. We are going to take a break and then probably have some programming for you that is going to be coming up shortly. And at 7 o'clock, stay tuned for more programming.